In this video I want to show you how Sargon of Akkad is wrong about the planned border wall to Mexico, how an alternative could look like, and I will explain why it would not be smart by the Democrats to give Trump the money to fund the wall. All my sources are in the description, and I would recommend you to watch Sargon's video first.
In general, as Trump says, they work 100%. If there is a wall there and there's someone trying to walk through this space, the wall stops them.
Well, except for that it doesn't. According to free author Alice Driver, who is reporting on immigration, most of the illegals crossing the border are already doing it over legal checkpoints, while they are being smuggled in a truck or a car over the border. In the meanwhile, others go literally under the already existing border reinforcements in one of the huge tunnel networks dug by the drug cartels. While at the same time, a study from the Pew Research Center estimates that between 40 and 50% of illegal immigrants are entering the US legally, overstay their visa, and dive under the radar of the US Department of Homeland Security. And even if the wall would work 100%, then you would still have the problem with Border Patrol agents accepting bribes from drug cartels or traffickers that will pay huge amounts of money to keep their businesses going. Another reason against the wall is that even the Border Patrol doesn't want it. To quote an article from Ellen Cranley, Kelly noted, the agents said they need a physical barrier in certain places, in addition to technology across the board and more people. To break this quote down, what agents really want are, indeed, physical barriers in certain places, more high-tech, such as ground radar or better surveillance systems, and more personnel for the Border Patrol, but not a huge wall along the entire border to Mexico. One supposed reason for the wall that Sargon didn't talk about at all would be drug trafficking.
The wall's going to get built, and the wall is going to stop drugs.
Well, surprisingly, it wouldn't do that either. As the November report from the DEA suggests, most of the transnational drugs come over the already existing checkpoints, where they are smuggled in such a quantity that it doesn't matter if 1 or 2 trucks are pulled out of traffic and never seen again. At the same time, cartels still use and dig more tunnels where it is impossible to determine how many drugs came already through, while criminal organizations are very effective in converting their earned money into technology. And here a wall alone won't help either, since a drone can still fly over it, and a cartel can still build a semi-submersible with which they will try to get to the US coast undetected. A wall alone will just not solve these issues. Another important factor to the inefficiency of the wall is its price. The now demanded $5 billion are just the beginning. While this money shall be used to build a 200-mile long strip of border wall, the cost for maintaining it will range from $1 billion to $1.6 billion US dollars a year. While today there live an estimate 11.5 million illegal immigrants in the USA, the total cost of them is settled between $3.3 and $15.6 billion per year, according to the correction of a FAIR study by the Pew Research Center. This means the cost of one illegal immigrant estimates between $286 to $1,356. So if you take the lowest figure for wall maintenance of the 200 miles of wall that Trump wants to build and divide it by the highest possible cost that an illegal could cause, then the wall would need to keep out over 700,000 illegal immigrants per year just to match the $1 billion that you would need for its maintenance. While a wall will also not reduce the cost that is caused by illegals that are already in the United States, since it can't force anyone that already lives there to leave the country. So in conclusion, from a practical perspective, the wall isn't very useful. It will be very expensive to maintain and will neither keep drugs nor immigrants away. Here it becomes very clear that Sargon neither understands how politics nor how democracy works. Here's a brief rundown of what led to the shutdown. Since all Republican attempts failed to push through funding for a wall in the last 2 years of Trump's tenure, they made a last attempt in 2018 to get it through before the Democrats would take over the House of Representatives on the 1st January 2019. The budget passed in Congress, but Trump refused to put a signature under it and therefore validating it. With this, the government ran partly out of money, and on the 22nd December at midnight the shutdown began. A Democrat-approved budget was passed in Congress but declined by the president since there was no funding for the wall in it. This brings up the question why Trump wants the wall so badly now. He has been unable to get budget for a wall in the last 2 years when House and Senate were under full Republican control. However, by now trying to push through the budget over a shutdown, he can at least blame the Democrats in Congress for not giving him the money for the wall. In this way, he doesn't have to explain why he didn't deliver on his promises. In regards of the next election, the Democrats are better off not giving in because of 2 major reasons. The first, when agreeing on any kind of deal with Trump, the Democrats risk a few potential backlashes. The first one would be that Trump can and will impose himself as a deal maker. This will bring back some of his voters and make the Democrats seem weak. The second one is that Trump wouldn't give in on anything the Democrats could want. Let us take healthcare, for example. Imagine they make a vocal agreement that if Trump gets the wall, he will extend Medicaid by a large margin. He would be better off not to deliver on that because he will scare away his own conservative hardliners and lose their support. Why he can make himself look even more as a winner if he just gives an empty promise to the Democrats that he's not going to and doesn't want to keep. In the beginning of this segment, I said that Sargon doesn't understand how democracy works, and here comes now why.
Getting things done is the purpose of democracy. Getting things done in a way that we can all agree to.
Well, that is a noble thought, but in reality, almost always false. In a democratic system like in the US, the job of a representative is to represent his voters. There is no solution that would be good for everyone in such a complicated question, but as statistics show, Democrats are just doing their job, which is representing their voters, and as polls show, they don't want a wall to Mexico.
And the thing is, right, let's say this doesn't work. Let's say that there is absolutely no benefit to having this wall. Well, that is a stick you can beat him with later on.
Or would they? Assuming that the wall will have been built, one of these 2 possible scenarios I imagine could happen. First, the wall actually works. That will give Trump wind under the wings for the upcoming election, and that's definitely something the Democrats won't want. The second scenario is that the wall doesn't work. In a broader view, it is now established that the only thing standing between Trump and the border wall are the Democrats in the House of Representatives. This makes them also a last control entity on if the wall is a good idea and worth spending money for. So if the wall is built now, after democratic approval, and it doesn't work, then the first ones to blame will not only be the one who had the idea, but also those who allowed it. Or in other words, if the Democrats approve the wall and it doesn't work, then every one of their political enemies will use this example to denounce them as incompetent idiots that should have known it better.
A wall can't be racist. A wall is just a pile of bricks.
Although Sargon is right, stating that a wall in theory can't be racist, it can and will be a symbol of the ones building it, and with that their ideals and identity. Again, this is exactly what it is to most Americans, especially Democratic voters. For them, the border wall is an expression of racism towards Hispanics, an expression for the desire to go back to a simpler world where the root of all problems could be traced back to one specific role of people, and in the end of the day, a huge reminder to the Trump presidency. While on the other hand, people calling the wall racist are not wrong either, since they aren't really talking about the actual physical wall, but rather the intent behind building it. And these are values most Democratic voters do not stand for. So to not lose voters because of what the wall symbolizes, the Democrats are better off not paying for the wall. Something that will help immediately will be better funding for the Border Patrol, which allows them to invest into better tech and more personnel as they demand. Another good idea comes from Trump.
That we will be working in partnership with our friends in Mexico to improve safety and economic opportunity on both sides of the border. I have deep admiration for the people of Mexico, and I greatly look forward to meeting again with the President of Mexico. We'll be doing that shortly. We will discuss close coordination on many, many important issues between our countries. This coordination includes the dismantling of cartels and keeping illegal weapons and cash from flowing out of America and into Mexico, out of our country, out of the United States, and it goes right into Mexico. They have to stop it. We have to stop it. We are going to save lives on both sides of the border. And we also understand that a strong and healthy economy in Mexico is very good for the United States.
Supporting Mexico is incredibly important, because when people have a good and safe place to live, and they don't have to live in fear of random violence by drug cartels, then they will not flee to the United States and therefore not cost the US taxpayer any money. In addition, stricter gun laws will help too. When people cannot just buy weapons without a background checks in states bordering Mexico, then the weapon flow over the border will be drastically reduced. With that, cartels will not get weapons anymore that easily, and it could lower the deaths that come out of the drug war every year. One more, rather controversial step could be to decriminalize some drugs like in Portugal. That way, the US government has to pay less money chasing drug users, can help more people with drug addiction, as it isn't demonized if it's legal, and is still able to fight against organized crime in full force. By, for example, legalizing marijuana nationwide, you could really hurt the wallets of big drug cartels. This will fight reasons for fleeing in South America and reduce drug trafficking into the United States. So in conclusion, after their win in the midterms and having gained control of the House of Representatives, the Democrats are now having the upper hand in this political conflict. Trump, after he failed to push his plans through the Congress when still having the majority in both the House and the Senate, is dependent on the Democrats now. But if they give in, it will be a large victory for Trump, one that they should just give away. If they agree to the wall, that is their first action in power, they will inevitably anger their voter base. Or, long story short, a democratic agreement to the US-Mexico border wall equals political suicide. Well, I think this was the longest video I ever made. It was a shit ton of work, but as I promised, my video around Company of Heroes 2 is still in production and will hopefully be finished within the next 2 weeks. As it was requested, I created a Discord server and a Patreon page. The link for both are in the description. Thank you for watching and tell me in the comments what you think would be better for the US, building a border wall or spending the money elsewhere. With that in mind, see you next time.